I want to hear cannons. Three-step drop, throws on the end zone. Caught ball, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans reaches up with one hand and grabs it in. Here they go again, tempo mode, dropping the throw. Winston out again, throws to the left. It's intercepted at the 35. Outside the numbers to the 40, to the 35, to the 30, to the 25, to the 20, to the 15, 10. Mike Edwards, touchdown Tampa Bay. That's the dagger, my friend.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. For the first time ever in the 46-year history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have won their second straight NFC South title. 30-24, your final score from Raymond James Stadium as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers explode on the offensive side of the ball and take down the Carolina Panthers. They avoid the sweep and take home the division title for another year in a row. With that being said, the Bucs have punched their ticket to the NFL postseason and have basically locked themselves into that 4-seed spot with an 8-8 record. It wasn't as pretty as we all wanted it to be, but it was one hell of a game. And the fact of the matter is, the Bucs have made it to the dance. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host for today, from BucsNation.com, James Hill. James, the Bucs are victorious, and they scored 30 points. What, for the first time since week 4, I think? I mean, that's not something the Bucs do very often this year.
Dude, I don't know what's happening. You know, I do know what's happening. The Bucs won the NFC South, which is fantastic. You know, I mean, that's so huge. Congratulations to them. Todd Bowles is officially a playoff coach again. You know, he was with the New York Jets, but like you said, the offense finally came alive and they were able to score some freaking points. It took all season. They were waiting. They had everybody fooled. You know, it was all according to plan, right?
Yeah.
So
and in typical Bucs fashion, nothing can ever be easy, right? I mean, 30-24, the final score in this one. Carolina with a great late game plan. Steve Wilks, their interim head coach, got to take the hat off really quick. He is one hell of a coach, and I do think he should strongly be in the conversation to be Carolina's next head coach. But they played their cards at the end, and they had a chance until the very end of this game. But before we go any further, we got to talk about the offensive side of the ball for the Bucs. I can't tell you the last time we opened a podcast after a win and talked about the offense, but let's talk about TB12. 34 for 45, 432 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown for the GOAT as he leads the Buccaneers to their second straight division title, and Tom Brady captures his 19th career division championship. What did you think of the GOAT's performance today?
He was fantastic. You know, I mean, Brady did everything that you wanted him to do. You didn't really, this looked like the Brady from like the 2020 season in 2021, you know, didn't see many off throws if things weren't necessarily going. You know, it was some issues with, you know, maybe guys dropping the ball or stumbling down and things along those lines. Like Brady was very, very on point in this game. I mean, it was pretty outstanding. He did fantastic. I mean, he really did.
And listen, a lot of people have talked about these past couple of weeks. I mean, people have been hating on Tom Brady all year long, saying that the arm is done, saying he's washed, he's cooked. Let's talk about those touchdowns today. I mean, the 3 touchdowns that he threw, 2 of them, 50-plus yards to Mike Evans. Now, we obviously got to talk about Mike Evans' day as well. I thought Tom Brady was about as good as it gets. His best game of the season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But a lot of talk so far this season has also been about Mike Evans and that connection between TB12 and Mike Evans. Because let's be honest, it just has not been there. You know, Mike Evans before today had not found the end zone since that week 4 game against Kansas City. It seems like a lifetime ago at this point in the season, now 16 games in, but Mike Evans was that guy today, right? I mean, he was that guy on the offensive side of the ball for the Buccaneers who stepped up, and we've expected him to be that guy all year. Unfortunately, he hasn't been, but today he silenced a lot of critics. 10 catches, 207 yards, and 3 touchdowns for big Mike Evans, just 2 yards shy of his career high. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think this has got to be one of the crowning moments of Mike Evans' Buccaneer career because, you know, I know Tom Brady did a lot of the work, but Mike Evans seemingly dragged this offense into the playoffs in a Buccaneers uniform. It was great to see what felt like vintage Mike Evans. I mean, he also got his 1,000 yards. Let's not even forget that. That's not even the biggest. That's not even the biggest storyline of the day. Mike Evans also the first player in NFL history to start their season, to start their career, with 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Long story short, Mike Evans is that dude.
He's pretty good at the footballs, man. I was going to ask jokingly, did he get 1,000 yards? He got 1/5 of that total in this game today alone.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's ridiculous. This could you say this is probably the most impactful game Mike Evans has had in his career? Possibly. Yeah. I mean, 207 yards, 3 touchdowns, like you said. And it was in so many moments where it was like, oh, you know, Bucks are a little bit flat here. Oh, okay. Mike Evans is here. Okay, cool. They did the no huddle stuff. It worked to perfection. Maybe they should do that more. It was great stuff from Mike Evans, man. Another guy that I really think that shouldn't be overlooked too, who had himself a really good game as well. It's just a little bit overshadowed by the fact that Mike Evans just went sicko mode on everybody. Is Chris Godwin. 9 catches for 120 yards in this game on 9 targets. A great game from that trio. Brady, Evans, Godwin. It's what everybody has been waiting for. I mean, everybody, not just Bucs fans, but national media as well, has been waiting all year, and they finally got it going. You know, they were, like I said, they were building it up all year, right? They fooled everybody, you know, just like they drew it up. But they finally got going. Evans, Godwin had a fantastic game. Brady, just that trio led this offense to victory today. Point blank, simple as that.
Yeah, Chris Godwin obviously coming into his own after the ACL season and ACL injury ending his season in 2021. He's kind of looked like a shell of himself for 3/4 of this 22 season, it feels like. And coming off of a major injury, the fact that he was able to play is remarkable in itself by week 1. But you've been waiting for that consistency to show up. And I will say it wasn't a perfect day for Chris Godwin. You know, the Bucs were trailing in this game early, and early on in this game, he had a fumble. They lost it, and Carolina had all the momentum in the game, and that's when a lot of people kind of thought this thing was done. But luckily, they were able to bounce back from their mistakes and keep this thing going. And after that, a clean game. That was the only turnover of the day for the Buccaneers on the offensive side of the ball. So with that being said, we talk about this offense and finding their rhythm. It seems like it took them long enough, but there really is no better time to be playing your best football than right before the postseason, right? Like teams like the Eagles, who have been red hot all season, are now losers of 2 weeks in a row. And the Bucs have won their last 2, one on Christmas Day with a last-second field goal over Arizona, and then obviously now the big NFC South division winning game against the Carolina Panthers. I think I said all of that correctly. Words can be hard sometimes. But it's an exciting time to see this offense finally start to roll. And you got to think, you know, next week against Atlanta, it's another team that, even though it's a division game, the division is still wrapped up, so it'll be curious to see who plays next week. But I'm curious just to see how this offense looks for another week in a row. Because I know we're getting really high on the offense right now. We're getting really high on the Buccaneers. But if there's one thing that has not been their strong point this year is consistency. So I would like to see them really just keep this thing rolling, right? We talked about Mike Evans. We talked about Chris Godwin. A couple of other guys that stepped up on the offensive side of the ball. Russell Gage had 3 catches for 33 yards. Rachaad White had 5 catches for 26 yards. Lenny, 4 catches for 19. Cade Otton, 2 catches for 17 yards. I will say Cade Otton kind of had a rough day, which wasn't very characteristic of him. But I mean, the fact of the matter is this is the best offensive performance of the season for the Bucs. And you got to wonder if they can keep the ball rolling.
Real quick, I just want to say too is, obviously Mike Evans getting 1,000 yards is great. Chris Godwin's only 32 yards away from 1,000 of his own, which is kind of flown under the radar. We don't know if the Buccaneers are going to rest their starters next week or not, but I would hope they would at least try to get Godwin that 1,000-yard mark just for,
I think the last time the Bucs had both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin with 1,000 yards was 2019. When Jameis Winston had thrown over 5,000 yards, 30 plus touchdowns, and 30 interceptions.
It was actually last year.
Was it really?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Godwin had 1,103.
Huh.
Evans had obviously 1,000.
Okay. Well then my information is bad.
But
I guess I got some bad sources.
But real quick, I want to point something out because you talked about the other guys who have stepped up. Russell Gage, I'm still happy for Russell Gage that he's able to be fully healthy and make some plays here and there. That's good to see. You also have a guy like, Rachaad White, who made a couple of really tough plays throughout this game, which I thought was a great thing to see. Guy that struggled, though, two guys that struggled, Cade Otton and O'Keefe, man. Those guys struggled, and you could tell Brady was pissed about it.
Well, I mean, especially after that one Cade Otton drop where he kind of stopped in the middle of the field. It was, I don't know how to describe it, maybe just a drag route, but essentially Cade Otton had nothing but green grass in front of him. Brady had dialed him up, and he stopped running on his route. I don't know if he thought he was supposed to sit down or hesitated for a second, but basically he fell over, and Brady was upset because the Bucs were definitely needing a first down at that point in the game. I think still trailing in the contest. But, O'Keefe as well, just both of those guys are rookies. And I know it's the end of the year, and I know that we have praised them all season for their production as rookies. But, O'Keefe especially, I'm not going to harp on him having that rough of a game. He is a blocker at heart. So if he doesn't get every single target, that is okay with me. But let's talk about the run game. I know you had talked on your game review about how, it wasn't that great of a day for the Buccaneers running the football. 21 carries between Leonard Fournette and Rachaad White, only 28 yards for Lenny on 10 carries, and 22 yards for Rachaad White on 11 carries, which is pretty uncharacteristic. Let me say, though, as devil's advocates, seemed like the Bucs were playing from behind for 75% of this game. So I'm not too upset with the run game, but I did think they should have been much better in that category, because I don't think there was any point in the game today where the Bucs could have leaned on that run game to kind of close things out. The final offensive possession for the Bucs, Carolina opted to take the field goal, give the Bucs the ball back, trusted their defense to get the stop and give Sam Darnold another shot at the end zone, which is ultimately what ended up happening. But I mean, if the Bucs get one first down, you know what I mean? Like, Carolina uses their timeouts and the game probably ends a little bit sooner in less dramatic fashion, but they couldn't even muster that. And again, even though they weren't getting consistent work all throughout the game, at the end of the game, that's when someone's got to step up. And I know Rachaad White had a stinger in this game, had to come out for a couple of plays. Maybe that affected him late in the stages. And Leonard Fournette also has that nagging foot injury, which is week to week for him as well. But they weren't able to close things out as well as they could have, and I wish that could have been better.
Yeah, and I talked about this over on my channel. Not super impressed with the run game. I will say, White had some good moments, right? And he made some plays when it mattered most, especially towards the end of the game when, there was a couple of plays where the Bucs needed to get some amount of yardages, and I thought that White was going to get destroyed in the backfield, right? But
there were a couple plays he made something out of nothing.
Yes, and that was impressive. But the Bucs have just got to do a better job with running the football, man. I mean, obviously they can get the job done passing the football, and that's their bread and butter. But you just want to have that run game option there, and unfortunately we didn't see it in this game. Maybe we'll see it improved in the future, but a couple of those guys did make plays when it mattered most, like White, Fournette a little bit in there as well. Apparently he's dealing with an undisclosed injury, but all in all, it is what it is. I mean, it's been like that for most of the year with this Bucs running attack at this point.
And really quick, let's just check in on the live chat here. Nearly 300 people hanging out with us for our post-game show. Truly appreciate you guys. Shout out to James Matz, Go Bucks in here as well. Adam Coate, Andre Persad. Our buddy Joel Elrican brings up a great point about the Bucks today. Said they actually took risks. They finally wanted the biscuit. Now, today was the Bruce Arians Ring of Honor induction game. It was supposed to be that Kansas City game all the way back in week 4 that we talked about, but that was obviously pushed back because of the threat of the hurricane. So today was the day for Bruce Arians to finally get his name up in Ray J, and the Buccaneers offense showed out. You'll love to see that as well. But, there were a couple of coaching moments early on in this game that I thought were going to cost the Bucs in the long run. While Carolina was able to answer for most of the game and keep it a 2-possession game, there was one point in particular that I think about. It was 4th and 1, maybe 4th and 2 feet, and the Bucs were in the red zone. Still down 2 possessions. They opted for the field goal to give themselves 10 points. Right? I mean, I know that you play it safe. You don't want to leave points on the field, but even Tom Brady was frustrated with that call. But aside from that, we did also see a couple of other 4th down conversions for Tampa Bay. Russell Gage had a big catch on 4th down that I remember as well. And shout out to our buddy Matt Diaz with the $5 super chat. Says, Bucks run the South. Mike is the best Buccaneer ever. Hey, we talk about Mike Evans' legacy in the long run, man. You start comparing him to the all-time greats. I know a lot of people want to say Derek Brooks is the greatest Buck of all time by default. I don't know if anyone's ever going to uncrown the GOAT as in Derek Brooks, but I think at this rate, I mean, I don't think there's a contest about the greatest offensive player in Buccaneer history being Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans is a top 3 Buck of all time, but Derek Brooks was good for a long time, man. Guys like Warren Sapp, they were good for a long time. But for Mike Evans, this is coming up on just 10 years of being the best offensive player we have.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, man. It's crazy to think about. So as much flack as Evans has gotten throughout this year, how fortunate, the Bucks are to have a guy like that for as long as they've had him through some terrible eras, man. I mean, Lovie Smith, Dirk Cutter, just didn't work out. And then Arians came along and that was some good years, obviously. And then Brady came along and it got even better. So it's just good, so consistent. They call him Mr. Consistency or Mr. Consistent, Mike Evans. I mean, yeah, it just very fortunate to have him as long as they've had him for on this team and have that insane level and production as long as they have. It's good stuff.
So, James, let me ask you this as we take a look at the other side of the football now for Tampa Bay in a 30-24 victory over the Carolina Panthers. What did you make of the defense today?
First half, I thought that, and look, I love the guy, but it was so noticeable to me. Antoine Winfield Jr. sucked in the first half. He really did. He struggled. Just not great. Was missing some coverages. Mike Edwards did not look good in the first half either, by the way. It wasn't a great first half for the safeties.
Even just that first drive for the defense in particular. I mean, that's Bucks have started the game, or I'm sorry, teams have started the game scoring on Tampa Bay before, but today seemed like the fastest that we have seen it happen. That first drive ended in a touchdown to Tommy Tremble, the tight end for Carolina. That was not good, and I kind of got nervous.
Yeah, no, it was tough, man. I mean, but in the second half, obviously things came alive. Anthony Nelson with possibly the play of the game. With that strip sack fumble. It's the second game in a row he's had something like that. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka brought pressure on a good amount of plays. Pressure up the middle came in with Akeem Hicks. He had 2 passes defended at the line of scrimmage. Vita Vea had a fumble recovered. SMB had an interception. Antoine Winfield Jr. would have had an interception, but DJ Moore was, offensive pass interference. But all in all, the defense came alive in the second half. They got the job done, and they really did some phenomenal stuff. Some of the guys that I mentioned stepped up in such huge ways, which was great to see. It's what you're used to seeing from this defense. They've been good throughout the whole year.
Yeah, no kidding. I thought the return of Vita Vea was huge, right? You saw his presence in the pass rush. And again, while they weren't getting to Sam Darnold as much as you would have liked them to, I mean, several plays where Darnold just had way too much time to sit back there and manage. His pass rush wasn't that consistent, but they shut down the run game of Carolina. I really thought they did. This is a team that has run for 500 rushing yards in the past 2 weeks. It's kind of become their go-to on the offensive side of the ball. Today, they trusted Sam Darnold to sit there and stay in the pocket, try and throw that thing around. While he was able to do that for most of the game, I thought, a couple of game-wrecking plays from guys like Anthony Nelson, like you had said. Sean Murphy-Bunting played a great game for a second week in a row, had a big interception right when the Bucs needed it as well. Did a really good job neutralizing DeAndre Hopkins on Christmas, played a great game today. A lot of guys stepped up, and I think one of the differences was obviously all of that. And then just the takeaways in general. That's something this Bucs defense has been hurting for. Really quick, $5 super chat from our buddy Brandon Michael said, I just want everyone to know Lavonte David's stats are better than the best linebackers ever at this point in their careers. Lavonte David should be in the running for best Buck ever. We get caught up a lot talking about Mike Evans and his legacy on the offensive side of the ball, but Lavonte David has been an Iron Man for this Buccaneers team for 12 years now. And for another week in a row, he was out there balling out. 6 tackles and 2 assists for him today. I mean, overall, it was a slow start, but defense played well enough to win, and thank God the offense was able to score enough points today.
Yeah, and I will say, like, to Malcolm's point, Lavonte David had a couple of really nice plays in there as well today, a couple of big plays. Malcolm said, Darnold came down to earth today. I wouldn't even say that. I thought Darnold played a pretty good game throughout most of the matchup today.
Well, I mean, if you were listening to the TV broadcast, Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olson were calling it like he was the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I will say, like, I think you would agree with me. Like, Darnold played a pretty solid game today.
No, he did. And since he has come back as the starter for Carolina, all of that drama between him, PJ Walker, Baker Mayfield, he's been playing well these past few weeks. He hasn't been tasked with throwing the ball quite as much as he was today, but he has been playing well. And I thought, aside from the SMB interception, tried to minimize his mistakes today. He made it competitive.
Yeah, so I mean, all in all, but at the end of the day, defense made a couple of really nice plays, got the plays when it mattered most. Again, that Anthony Nelson forced fumble at the end of the game was so huge. It really was, man. And it just, again, it really. Also, by the way, Rhett always hates the TV announcers.
No, come
on. That is pretty accurate, man.
Hold on.
That is pretty accurate.
Hold on. BK, that's so funny that somebody brings that up, and I don't want to sit here and go on a tangent. Maybe I'm just picky. All right, maybe I'm just picky.
You're a snob.
I know. Maybe as a wannabe play-by-play guy myself, I'm a little picky, but you can't sit here and tell me that Greg Olson is a good analyst. That guy is so annoying. He talks so much. And like Kevin Burkhardt's just corny. I don't know. I feel like
it's
Fox...
every announcer. It's every announcer. I hear every time.
Maybe it is. Rhett just hates play-by-play guys. That's what it is. I honestly, the Fox announce crew with the departure of Aikman, Joe Buck, a couple of other guys. I mean, Chris Myers might be the best guy that they have, and we haven't heard him call the Bucs game all season. We just need Chris Myers every week, and then I'll be happy.
I was gonna say, I don't even think you liked Aikman and Buck.
Joe Buck has been better on Monday Night Football, but I think that's because they allow him to get drunk before the games now, so he's a little more loose,
I guess so, man. I guess so. But anyway, going back to the topic at hand, the defense, they played phenomenal today. And it really showcased that, yeah, this team came alive in the second half, both on offense and on defense, and they were able to get that job done.
That's funny, man. That's funny. Some other guys on the defensive side of the ball I thought who played well today. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, while he wasn't perfect, he did lead the team in tackles for the first time all season. 7 tackles for JTS, a couple of quarterback pressures as well. Seemed like he did a pretty good job of getting after Sam Darnold. Obviously, no home runs today for JTS, but he's involved, dude. And a lot of people have said that he's not a complete edge rusher yet, and I will agree. Like he doesn't really finish as much as he should. He's got to start finishing in the pocket, and he's got to get there. But he's so close. Right, I feel like he is constantly the guy who is kind of the last reinforcement on that defensive line to chase down a scrambling quarterback, and so I can appreciate his level of play. Antoine Winfield Jr., we talked about his rough first half. He finishes with 5 tackles and a sack, And I believe Anthony Nelson also had the strip sack later in the
Yep.
game. Those are the only 2 sacks for Tampa Bay today. So while, they didn't get after the quarterback as much, something else we alluded to was their ability to take the ball away, which has been something this team has been hurting for.
Yeah, no, I really thought that they did a good job of getting takeaways today. They could have had a couple of more. Yeah, as I said, Antoine Winfield Jr. could have had a pick. There was another botched snap that could have been recovered. Thankfully for the Panthers, they got it. But there was definitely a lot of opportunities there for the Bucs to get some takeaways. They were able to do so on a couple of instances, which really can make a difference, man. I mean, you saw it there in this game today. It made that difference in a big, big way, especially the Anthony Nelson one towards the end of the game. And it was huge. It was absolutely huge.
Yeah, we talked about Sean Murphy-Bunting stepping up, having a good game today as well. I wanted to circle back and mention that forced fumble. That's going to be forgotten, obviously, because the Bucs didn't come up with it. But the peanut punch to send that ball out of bounds, that could have been huge. And for SMB, a guy who already had an interception today, that would have been crazy to see him come away with 2 takeaways for this Buccaneers defense. But regardless, their performance was great. Complimentary football on both sides for Tampa Bay, and they clutch up exactly when they need it. I don't know what else there is to say, man. Let's talk about our boy Ryan Suckup. I feel like we kind of have to at this point. We've praised the offense, Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Talked about who balled out on the defense, Anthony Nelson, some of those other guys coming up and making plays. But Ryan Suckup today,
Bad game.
Well, it was a bad game. Probably his worst game in a Bucs uniform. And listen, if you guys have listened to this podcast before, you know how pro Ryan Suckup we are. But I think today may have been the nail in the coffin for him as far as returning as the Bucs kicker next season. He won that job from Jose Borregales in the preseason, but there's one thing Borregales has that Suckup just does not, is the leg. And we're starting to really see that affect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at this point in the season. They're leaving a lot of points on the board just because Suckup can't get it there from beyond 50 yards. 2 for 7 on 50-plus yard attempts so far this season. Not a great look.
Yeah, no. It was tough. I mean, obviously Suckup's been good throughout this season, and that does in some way, shape, or form make up for this game, of course. But as you said, you left points on the board. It was such a crucial game. I wouldn't go as far as to say that Suckup's just like automatically done with the Bucs, but I do think that they're going to take a very, very legitimate look as to who their kicker should be next year. If they bring in competition with Suckup. I think that Suckup has been clutch this year when he's like absolutely needed to be. He's had a couple of game winners here or there. Just had a game winner last week against Arizona. But this wasn't a great game for him. He missed one that got blocked. It was too low of a kick, missed an extra point. The 53-yarder, I don't put on him. I mean, the coaches know what his range is. It's not a secret. So that I kind of put more on the coaching staff, but Suckup did miss 2 kicks of his own, in my opinion, which was unfortunate. So it was probably one of Suckup's more rougher games.
Yeah, just like you said, his range is no secret. While he has been here 2020, 2021, and even most of the 2022 season, we know what kind of kicker he is. He's not a Justin Tucker. He's not going to make it from 60 plus. You know what I mean? Like even from 50 plus, it's a little bit of a gamble. But the Bucs knew what they were getting into when they brought him in, because if there was something that, this team was needing in a kicker, it was consistency. Because for the longest time, guys like Cairo Santos, Chandler Catanzaro, Nick Folk, who's amazingly still getting away with the same shit in New England. Nick Folk is still
Roberto Aguayo, Matt Gay.
Right. You look at the long lineage of kickers. I think the last consistent guy we really had was like a Pat Murray. That's a name.
Or Connor Barth.
Maybe a Connor Barth, a Pat Murray. That era was fun. But
those are the 2 guys.
Mm-hmm. But really, it's one of those things where I think the Bucs have started to realize that, more often than not, they have been in a situation where they have to get that 50-plus yarder and they just can't do it. And that's, again, it's hard to sit here and harp on Ryan Suckup saying, oh, he's got to be better, because he's been the same player since he's been here. He's our boy. I'm a big fan of Ryan Suckup. But again, it's just too many times this season where you've kind of needed, you've needed that young leg to get you there. And, the Bucs are looking back at a guy like Jose Borregales, and they're kind of wishing they had that young leg right now as we approach the postseason. But with that being said, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens here in the spring and the Buccaneers kicking competition moving forward. Speaking of special teams and young legs, man, Jake Camarda. Gotta give him some love as well. The rookie punter really coming into his own here at the ending stages of the regular season. He has had a pretty solid year. I thought he obviously started out pretty slow, but his ability to just kick the ball, I mean, I know that sounds so stupid, but like his ability today on the heads up play to kind of drop kick that thing out of there, even though it was negated by the penalty, that was a great job by Jake Camarda to make something out of nothing there on what could have been a disastrous play on the bad snap from Zach Triner. What did you think of Jake Camarda here as we kind of, wrap up here on special teams?
I was going to say, definitely, a great game by Camarda. I thought he played great. That play that you mentioned was fantastic. Probably going to need to wrap up the show soon as well, because, it is New Year's Day. I'm going to have to go eat some New Year's Day dinner with the fam. But don't mean to put you on the spot like that. But
gotta air me out like that.
But I will say,
special guest running me off of my own podcast. What is this?
You can stay on. I just have to get off.
Oh, I see.
But I will say, I thought Camarda played good, Rhett. That play turned almost so disastrous. So disastrous. I mean, my heart jumped as soon as I saw the snap hit the ground. And Camarda was sitting there. Yeah, chat. Okay, chat, calm down. Calm down.
Hey, listen. If we're sitting here airing each other out, y'all should have seen James hit me with the ignore this morning. I asked him to come in clutch and substitute a show, and I got no response.
Here, aren't I?
I checked in. My boy's already on his own live stream. It's okay. I appreciate you.
Here.
Yeah. Next man up.
Here.
Next man up.
Look, listen. It was Camarda had a good play. Okay, chat, you can calm down. Camarda had a good play. I thought that my heart was scared whenever that play happened. I thought that was an excellent play by Camarda, and it saved the game. Point blank, simple as that. It really did save the game.
Hey, one more thing I want to harp on before we wrap this thing up.
Sure.
Just to kind of circle back to Rhett hating all the play-by-play announcers.
This is
a great point brought up in chat by Ray Buck Bolt. Said announcers need to learn what the single cannon shot is for. They always seem to chuckle about the cannon guy messing up. I don't know if you heard that on the broadcast, but they were roasting my guy. I mean, Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt are up in the booth. So you're aware at Buccaneers home games, and it's been this way ever since they put a goddamn pirate ship with cannons on it inside the stadium. 9 times out of 10, when the Bucs are in the red zone, they fire off one single shot, right?
Yeah.
Inside 20 yards, boom, one cannon shot. You would think Greg Olsen, who played
does he not know
who played for 48 years, you would think that he knew that the Buccaneers fire the cannon, but no, they fired the cannon one time inside the red zone, and they immediately were like, "Tell that guy to settle down," and that's why I hate him. How does he not know that? Oh man,
So
I know
weird.
you would think, but I mean, at the end of the day, I know we're just nitpicking. I wasn't a big fan of the announce team. Hopefully next week, they can get us someone better in there. But I guarantee you, it's Fox. It's going to be. Do you know what time next week's game is?
I'm going to seem like 425 or something.
I want to say 425. I want to say 425.
By the way, thank you to Richard Taroka for the $1.99 super chat saying, got my 2022 NFC South Division Champs hat and shirt. That's right. You can get those now at NFLshop.com. Or
Today, a good old hat and t-shirt game. The Buccaneers obviously get the job done. 30-24, your final score. They get it done in front of Bruce Arians as well, who I don't know if he coined the term hat and t-shirt game, but we heard him of all people talk a lot about it last year when the Bucs were able to wrap up the NFC South, and they do that today. Week 17, the Bucs are 8-8, but they are NFC South champions once again for the first time in franchise history, going back to back. It is a lot of season firsts for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. Or I'm sorry, it's a lot of franchise firsts for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season. Their first international game, the first time they swept New Orleans since 2007. And
Yeah.
obviously their first back-to-back division title. But ladies and gentlemen, I know it's kind of a short show today on a beautiful New Year's Day, but with all that being said, that's just about going to do it for this week's episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Not a whole lot else to talk about. I mean, we're going to be back. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. No, we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, did we? I hope so. I hope so.
We found out that Rhett hates all announcers.
Yes, we did.
You just need to have a list.
I know. I got to start putting them on the list. Greg Olson, Kevin Burkhardt, they just made the list.
That's facts.
They just made the list. But ladies and gentlemen, follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. You can find James Hill and his content right here on YouTube at Mr. Bucs Nation. You can also check out his written work at bucsnation.com. You got anything cool coming out this week people should be on the lookout for?
No, I mean, not necessarily, just the regular content, regular stuff I post on Bucs Nation. We are on the march to 18,000. So that's good. We are over a fifth of the way there now. So just keep on marching, man, especially when we get closer to the playoffs and whatnot. So gonna have a couple of interesting videos about should the Bucs rest their starters, maybe some stuff along those lines. So should be fun. Yeah.
I love it, man. Evan Wanish will be back later on this week. He should be back with us here in the next show or the one after that. But with that being said, we'll return later this week with former Tampa Bay Buccaneer quarterback Sean King. We'll get his thoughts on the game, of course, the season so far as we gear up for the NFL playoffs. Last but not least, you can find myself, Instagram and Twitter at Redicus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. But ladies and gentlemen, that's the show. Fire the cannons. Thank you for listening. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are NFC South champions for the second year in a row. We'll talk to you later this week. I'll be joined by Evan Wanish and former Bucs quarterback Sean King. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host, James Hill. We'll talk to you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for listening, and go Bucs.